The oppressive August heat of 1847 was a living thing. It clung to Samuel Hartwell's skin like a shroud, thick with the scent of salt water and decay. He had come to Charleston not to escape the city's humid embrace, but to confront a pattern of death that defied logic. 17 life insurance claims, all healthy men, all dead of heart failure at roadside inns on the Charleston-Columbia Road, and all with the faint, peculiar smell of something sweet and floral on their breath. The local authorities dismissed it as low-country sickness, a tragic but natural consequence of summer travel. But Hartwell, an investigator for the Mutual Assurance Company, saw a design in the chaos. He saw a predator. The trail of death led him to a place that appeared to be the picture of Southern grace, the 6-mile Wayfarer house. As Hartwell's carriage rumbled down the dirt road, the house emerged from the thick pine forest. It was a vision of gleaming white columns and a wide, inviting piazza, draped with ancient Spanish moss that hung like funeral shrouds. He felt a sudden, profound sense of unease. The air was still, heavy with a perfume he couldn't identify. He knew this scent. He had found it on the clothes of every victim. It was the smell of oleander. He was met at the entrance by a woman who could have stepped out of a portrait. Her hair was a crown of intricate braids and glossy ringlets. Her green eyes held his with a disconcerting intensity, a gaze that seemed to see straight into his soul. This was Levvenia Fischer, the charming hostess of the inn. Her smile was disarming, almost hypnotic. "Welcome, Mr. Henderson," she said, her voice a low musical cadence. She had used his false name, the one he had meticulously crafted to attract a predator. "You look quite weary from your journey. I believe a special refreshment is in order. My grandmother's recipe is renowned for its restorative properties." Hartwell's heart hammered against his ribs. This was it, the very beginning of the ritual. The stage was set, the player in place. He followed her into the parlor, a room of breathtaking luxury that felt entirely out of place in a dusty roadside inn. Persian rugs, polished mahogany, and a crystal chandelier that caught the light like frozen tears. The wealth, he realized, was not inherited. It was a harvest of death. He excused himself to wash off the travel dust and used the opportunity to scour the house. He found a locked back office. Through the door, he heard a low, muttered conversation, a hum of nervous energy. A man's voice, raspy and barely audible, and another voice, a woman's, cold and commanding, stripped of its beautiful veneer. It was Levvenia. She was no longer the charming hostess. She was the one in control, the one who gave the orders. When he returned, Levvenia was in the kitchen, a silhouette against the dim light. He crept to the doorway, his blood turning to ice. Her face, caught in the shadows, was a mask of intense concentration. She was not a hostess preparing a welcome tea. She was an alchemist. She measured various powders and crushed petals into a teacup with the scientific precision of a pharmacist. It was the same chilling, cold focus he had seen in the eyes of a hunter tracking its prey. When she turned and saw him, the mask snapped back into place instantly, her face transforming back into that of the benevolent hostess. "Almost ready," she sang sweetly. Her voice sounded like a lie. "I hope you'll enjoy it. It's quite unforgettable." She approached him with the cup, a delicate piece of china with a pattern of pink roses that matched the faint floral notes in the air. He could see tiny, almost imperceptible fragments of plant matter floating in the rosy liquid. Oleander. He was looking at his death. As she held the cup out to him, her green eyes held a glint of triumph. The predator was offering its final meal. Hartwell feigned a stumble, his hands trembling as he deliberately spilled the contents across the expensive Persian rug. The tea splattered, its sweet narcotic aroma filling the air. As he watched the pink liquid seep into the delicate pattern of the rug, he saw a few small, unmistakable pink petals roll from the cup. It was all there, laid bare. Levvenia's face contorted for a split second, a flash of pure, murderous rage crossing her features. The mask was gone. He saw the monster beneath, cold and calculating. Then, just as quickly, the charming smile returned, but her eyes were still ablaze with fury. "Oh, how very clumsy of you," she said, her voice strained. "Don't worry, I'll prepare another." "No," Hartwell said, his voice stronger than he expected. "I'm afraid I'm more tired than I thought. A brief nap is what I truly need." He knew what was happening now. He was no longer a potential victim. He was a problem. The game had changed. He had just dodged a bullet. But he was now a rat, trapped in a maze with two well-armed cats. That night he barricaded his door with furniture. Through the thin walls of the inn, he listened. He heard the husband and wife whispering, their voices no longer soft, but sharp and venomous. "He knows," Levvenia's voice hissed, a sound devoid of any music. "He was watching me." "Maybe he was just curious," John's voice trembled. "Don't be a fool. No one spills tea like that by accident. We need to act now. We have to bury him tonight." Hartwell's heart pounded. He heard heavy boots on the floorboards below, followed by the muffled sound of a shovel being dragged across the ground. Through his window, he saw John's stocky form move toward the swamp behind the property. He was carrying a heavy bundle, a sack. The implications were horrifying. He was watching them dispose of the body of another victim, a ghost from their past who had arrived just before him. The sickening realization dawned on him. This was a well-oiled machine. They had a system for everything, from luring their prey to ensuring no evidence was left behind. The alligators, Levvenia had noted with a chilling laugh, were remarkably cooperative. He spent the night documenting everything he had seen and heard, the fear a cold knot in his stomach. He was a single man in a house of professional killers, his only chance of survival, the element of surprise. At dawn, he made his move. He emerged from his room, feigning urgent business, and rushed to leave. Levvenia's smile was a predator's grin, full of feigned sweetness, but her eyes held a promise of a future meeting she fully intended to ensure. "It would be a shame if our paths never crossed again," she said. "I am certain they will," Hartwell replied, his voice firm, and for the first time he saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. It was a fleeting moment, but it was enough. He rode to Charleston, his mind replaying the cold smile, the flash of rage, the hushed whispers, and the sound of a shovel dragging toward the swamp. He now had the story, not just a list of deaths. He had the villains. And he knew, with chilling certainty, that the most dangerous predator in all of South Carolina's backroads wore silk dresses and served poison with a smile that could melt the heart of any man foolish enough to trust in the inherent goodness of feminine virtue.